The world of rock and roll has always been a wild ride, full of fame, fortune, and the kind of excess that seems almost unreal. To fans, rock stars are untouchable icons, living the dream without a care in the world. But behind the scenes, the reality is far more twisted. Beneath the roaring crowds and flashing lights lies an industry built on control, exploitation, and carefully crafted illusions. Some rock stars played along, but others dared to speak up, exposing the dark secrets hidden beneath the surface. Their revelations shattered myths, sparked controversy, and in some cases put their own careers on the line. Here are the rock legends who revealed the truth, and the secrets the industry never wanted you to know. Jimmy Page is widely regarded as one of the greatest guitarists of all time. His mesmerizing riffs and groundbreaking solos helped define Led Zeppelin's sound, solidifying the band's status as rock legends. Fans admired his talent, charisma, and enigmatic presence. But beneath the image of an untouchable rock god lies a darker truth, one that exposes the troubling reality of rock's golden era, the widespread exploitation of underage girls. In the 1970s, Page became involved with Lori Maddox, a 14-year-old girl who was part of the infamous Los Angeles groupie scene. Like many young girls at the time, Maddox was drawn to the thrill and glamour of the rock world. But while the scene was often romanticized as a place of freedom and rebellion, the reality was far more disturbing. Powerful men dictated the rules, and those rules rarely considered the well-being of the girls involved. Page knew that his relationship with Maddox was illegal, yet he went to great lengths to keep it hidden. According to multiple accounts, his roadies would kidnap Maddox from clubs, sneaking her into his hotel rooms and ensuring she remained out of public view. For years, she was his secret girlfriend, forced to stay in the shadows because any exposure could have serious legal consequences. Lori Maddox has never explicitly described her relationship with Jimmy Page as rape.
I took my birth control pill out of my purse and took it in front of people on the Sunset Strip, which is feminism.
However, given that she was 14 years old when their relationship began, it is legally considered statutory rape, as she was far below the age of consent.
First of all, I was still, I was a baby. Come on, and this was Led Zeppelin.
Despite the growing awareness of abuse and accountability in the entertainment industry, Page has never publicly addressed or apologized for his relationship with Maddox. Unlike other public figures who have faced scrutiny for similar actions, his legacy has remained largely untouched, shielded by nostalgia and the reverence surrounding Led Zeppelin. The music industry, for the most part, has chosen silence, allowing the uncomfortable truth to fade into the background.
Like a heart attack, I see the shock when you face it. We couldn't take it, so we got a little wasted.
Few rock stars have embodied the extremes of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle quite like Nikki Sixx.
Heroin makes you throw up.
Right.
Cocaine, when you inject it, makes you throw up.
So you were injecting?
I was injecting, I was smoking, I
Wow.
was doing the whole
And you were
As the bassist and primary songwriter of Mötley Crüe, he was at the heart of the band's chaos, reveling in excess while crafting some of the most iconic hard rock anthems of the 1980s. Fans idolized him, the media sensationalized his antics, and record labels profited from the reckless, rebellious image he projected. But behind the wild parties, screaming crowds, and multi-platinum records was a man spiraling out of control, pushed deeper into addiction by an industry that valued controversy over well-being. In his tell-all memoir, The Heroin Diaries, Sixx exposed a disturbing reality. The music industry didn't just tolerate his drug addiction, it encouraged and even facilitated it. At the height of Mötley Crüe's fame, record executives saw drug-fueled debauchery as part of the brand. The more outrageous the stories, the more publicity the band received. Instead of stepping in to help, the industry capitalized on the chaos, turning near-death experiences into marketing tools. As Sixx's heroin addiction worsened, his behavior became more erratic. He would disappear for days on drug binges, lose control on stage, and frequently overdose. But rather than stepping in to get him help, the industry let it happen because it sold records. Stories of Six being revived from overdoses, smashing hotel rooms, or engaging in drug-fueled antics were splashed across magazines, fueling the band's notoriety and boosting album sales. His addiction reached its terrifying peak in December 1987, when he overdosed on heroin at a party in Hollywood. Paramedics found him unresponsive, his pulse fading. For 2 full minutes, he was clinically dead. A shot of adrenaline straight to his heart brought him back, a moment so intense that it would later inspire the song "Kickstart My Heart." Most people would see an overdose as a wake-up call, a sign to get help and make a change. But for Six, his record label saw something else, a golden PR opportunity. Instead of showing concern for his well-being, they pushed the story to the press, knowing that headlines about his near-death experience would keep the band in the spotlight. The record labels didn't care if we lived or died, as long as we were selling records, Six wrote. His words stripped away the glamorous illusion of rock stardom and exposed the chilling truth. Artists weren't treated as people, but as products. Their suffering just another part of the spectacle. Six eventually got clean, but his revelations painted a damning picture of the industry's indifference. His story isn't just about addiction. It's about how record labels fueled and profited from destruction, sacrificing the well-being of artists in exchange for fame and fortune. Kiss built their empire on spectacle, flaming guitars, blood-spitting performances, and massive stage productions that captivated audiences worldwide. They were a theatrical phenomenon, turning rock concerts into larger-than-life experiences. But as much as their shows were about music, they were also about illusion. Eventually, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley revealed one of the industry's biggest secrets.
People weren't getting along, people in the band weren't showing respect to the fans or to the band itself, so we decided to kind of put the horse down, and then we realized, wait a minute, people want Kiss.
Many bands fake their live performances. Simmons and Stanley admitted that countless rock acts, some of the biggest names in the industry, rely on pre-recorded tracks during concerts. While fans believed they were watching raw, unfiltered talent, some of what they were hearing had already been recorded in a studio. In some cases, hidden musicians backstage would play certain parts, ensuring the performance sounded flawless even when the actual band members weren't doing all the work themselves. For fans who spent hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars to see their favorite bands live, this revelation felt like a betrayal. Rock music has always sold itself as authentic, raw, and unpredictable, the exact opposite of polished pop productions. The idea that some of the most legendary acts had been lip-syncing, miming, or relying on hidden backing tracks shattered that illusion. Of course, some fans shrugged it off, arguing that it was all part of the entertainment value. Others felt deceived. After all, Kiss was all about putting on a show. But for others, it raised a troubling question. If even rock legends like Kiss admitted to this, how many other bands were secretly doing the same? And how much of live rock music was really live?
The reason why it became such a big deal back then is ever since my third album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio.
Prince was a rebel, on stage and off. His music was electric, his performances transcendent, and his presence so powerful that he didn't just fit into genres, he created them. But beneath the flamboyant outfits, the iconic guitar solos, and the undeniable genius, there was a man fighting a battle far bigger than music itself. He was a warrior against an industry that sought to control him. In the early 1990s, Prince became increasingly frustrated with his record label. Warner Bros. At first, it seemed like the perfect partnership. He was one of their biggest stars, and they gave him the resources to reach global superstardom. But behind the scenes, they owned everything. They controlled his music, his release schedule, and ultimately, his career.
If you signed me to a record company,
Right.
or a record deal, let's suppose you have a record company,
Right.
how much would you give me? The album sells for $18, right? $18?
Whatever, yeah.
All right, how much of that would you give me?
Prince saw himself as an artist, someone whose work was deeply personal. But to Warner Brothers, he was a product, a machine designed to generate hits on their terms. Feeling like a prisoner to the very system that had propelled him to fame, Prince made a dramatic statement. He changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, rendering himself impossible to market under the name Warner Brothers controlled, and began appearing in public with the word slave scrawled across his face. It was an act of defiance, a bold and painful truth laid bare. The music industry didn't nurture artists, it owned them. "People think I'm crazy," Prince said in an interview. "But it's because they don't understand what it's like to create something from your heart and be told that it's not yours." To the outside world, his fight may have seemed extreme, but Prince knew exactly what he was doing. He was sending a message not just for himself, but for every artist who had ever been trapped in an exploitative contract. He refused to let the industry dictate his legacy. And in the end, he won. Prince fought tirelessly for ownership of his music and ultimately regained control over his master recordings, setting a precedent that artists today still benefit from. His battle wasn't just personal, it was revolutionary. Prince proved that an artist should never have to ask permission to own their own creations. His music and his message live on, a reminder that true artistry isn't just about talent. It's about fighting for what's right. John Lennon is remembered as a symbol of peace, a man who preached love and unity through his music and activism. Songs like Imagine painted a vision of a better world.
Imagine there's no heaven.
One free from violence and hate. But behind the idealistic message was a deeply flawed man, one who carried a past that didn't always align with the words he sang. In a rare moment of raw honesty, Lennon admitted that in his younger years, he had been violent toward women. "I was a hitter," he confessed in a 1980 interview. "I couldn't express myself, and I hit." It was a shocking admission, one that stood in direct contrast to the image of him as a peace-loving visionary. For many fans, this revelation was difficult to process. Lennon had evolved into a champion of nonviolence, advocating for a world without war or cruelty. But his confession forced people to face the uncomfortable truth. Even those we admire most can have deeply troubling pasts. It also raised bigger questions. How many other rock stars had dark secrets hidden behind their fame? Was the industry guilty of protecting and enabling this kind of behavior? And if Lennon had come up in a different era, would he have faced the same reverence or would he have been held accountable? Lennon later spoke about his regret and the effort he made to change, but his story is a reminder that true transformation is more than words. It's action. His legacy remains a complicated one, proving that even those who inspire the world are not without flaws. Rock stars are supposed to be untouchable icons, living lives most can only dream of. But these revelations shattered the illusion, exposing an industry built on exploitation, deception, and manipulation. Some, like Prince, fought back and won. Others, like Nikki Sixx, barely survived. And some, like Jimmy Page, never faced consequences at all. The music industry thrives on mystery, but thanks to these artists, the truth is out. And once you've seen behind the curtain, you can never look at rock and roll the same way again.